cinematics. This is something I'm sure you've seen on YouTube before. Beautiful shots of Minecraft that are incredible to see, but just don't seem possible. But how are these made, and how can you make some of your own? Let's go ahead and talk through how you can do this same thing with mods, and just a little bit of cinematography knowledge. I'll also talk through some professional cinematography tips so you can learn not only how these things can look better, but if you want to, you can level up your own content and make things look more beautiful than the competition. It's actually a lot more simple than you may think, and you might actually already have the tools installed on your game to be able to pull this off. So now that you've been watching what's actually possible for a little while, let's jump into how you can do this for yourself.
Hi there. Did you like that intro? I spent a long time on it.
So what's the first step? Well, we need to get a few tools installed in the game to make this happen. If you're not sure how to install mods, well, this isn't a tutorial for that, so head on up to that gorgeous search bar right above and figure that out. It's fine, we can wait. I'll take a short intermission. We interrupt this intermission to tell you that I'm literally going to explode in 5 seconds if you don't hit subscribe. 5, 4, 3, come on, you can do it. 1. Intermission over. We don't have any time to waste. The main tool we'll be using today is the replay mod. This will allow us to record and export some really incredible shots with some super precise positioning and control. This is the way that you get those super long, beautiful sweeping shots that are super precise, also time-lapse content of big builds and such, and it's also how you can record yourself in the third person. If you don't know how the replay mod works, I highly recommend this tutorial series from Pixel Riffs. It'll be linked in the description. Next up, we want to make things look pretty. Shaders are an incredible way for you to make your game look just wow. Like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful to look at. Of course, maybe don't run your shaders with, you know, this amount of stuff happening in the world because it's a little bit laggy. But the beautiful thing about complementary is that I can actually adjust a bunch of those things, so it's fine. I'm also gonna just turn that down a little bit. There we go. Now we've got some nice performance. Look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. This isn't even like a cinematic shot or anything. This is just gorgeous. These do take a little extra power to run than normal Minecraft, so if your computer isn't completely unnecessary for Minecraft, it might be harder to run. Thankfully, there's a ton of options for lower performance shaders out there, or you can just record footage with vanilla shaders and that'll look just fine. The mods I personally use for this are Sodium for performance and Iris for shaders, but Optifine works great too. Also, I've been really enjoying complementary shaders recently, so that's what I'll be using for the sake of customizability and just pure beauty. Like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful out here. On the subject of shaders, you'll probably want to choose a shader pack that is, you know, first of all, not gonna light your PC on fire, but secondly, will look beautiful right out of the box. For this, I'd recommend against path tracing or ray tracing shaders, just because they have a lot of downside and they don't look quite as good naturally as something like complementary or cilders. They're super fun to play with. Like, as you can see, this looks great, but yeah, it comes at the cost of performance. Also, I tend to get some weird artifacting with my GPU. I don't know if that's just specifically my GPU, but yeah, it's not super easy to run these. They are absolutely a ton of fun to play around with, but they kind of suck the life out of your FPS, so you know, that's not ideal if you want to like play the game. So now that we have all our mods installed and ready to go, let's go ahead and jump into a Minecraft world and get this all started. Oh wait, we're already in one. That's crazy! Before we start filming though, we're gonna want to set a few baseline things. You're gonna have to ask yourself 3 different questions. What's the subject? Where is the subject? And what elements do you want to highlight for the viewer? These will be the defining factors that'll pretty much decide where and how you're going to shoot your footage. So for example, let's say I really like this location. I really like this, you know, ruined portal over here. Let's say I want to shoot this area. I'm gonna start by asking myself, what is my subject? I'm gonna go ahead and choose this ruined portal itself as the subject. Where is the subject? Well, it's out here in the jungle, so I'll want to think about how I'm going to capture the jungle aspects of this area and film that. And then which elements do I want to highlight for the viewer? I really obviously want to highlight this, and I want to highlight the area it is. So on this sort of island area, there's a beautiful mountain over there, things like that. These are the elements that I want to highlight. So now that I've decided on those things, I'm gonna go ahead and hit start recording, and that will start our replay. I usually try to just like move away or like bury myself if this is like a, you know, a beautiful area, so that the I'm not in the replay file, because I don't want myself in this shot. I want it to be beautiful. And I'm not beautiful enough to make the shot. This is so sad. Obviously, if the shot is about you, you can include yourself in the shot. That's fine.
But for me, I will be stuck in this hole.
All right, so now that I've hit stop recording, I can go ahead and quit back to the title, and we'll make sure this replay saves. And now that it's saved, we can go ahead and open up this replay file, and we can get started with actually shooting the area. Wow, that is really weird to look at. Quick tip on replay, if you hit B on your keyboard, you can actually see all the players that are in the world, and then I can click on this and teleport directly to me. So, hey, look, it's me. First thing you'll want to do is find your subject, which is here. And there's a couple things you'll want to remember. I am Steve. First of all, as you're filming, remember that framing and composition is everything. In reference to composition, let's talk a little bit about what that means, and we'll use this chicken as an example. With composition, there's 3 elements that you want to keep in mind. That's the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. You want to make sure that each level is distinct from the other ones. Additionally, you'll want to set your frame so that your subject is on the left or right side. That will also depend on which way the subject is facing. So in this case, as you can see, the chicken is facing to the right side of the screen. We'll want to put him on the left. This essentially gives the subject headroom to move in a direction if he wanted to. Obviously, the chicken here is not going to be moving in this frame, but he could if he wanted to. Here's a quick tip too as well. As you can see, I have a depth of field effect on my shader here, and it puts whatever's in the middle in focus. So like, for example, if I'm looking this direction, the chicken is no longer in focus, but if I hover over the chicken's in focus. The best way to get this to work with the depth of field effect is to render it out at about double the resolution and zoom in your editing software. So in this case, instead of rendering at 1080p like a regular video, I would render this shot at 4K, and then I could zoom in post. Of course, there's more to framing than just those factors, but that's a good start. Second, while you're filming, you'll want to keep in mind camera movement. Static shots don't typically work well for something to feel open and cinematic. So what you'll want to do is give your shot the same energy that your video has overall. So for example, if it's a fast-paced battle scene, maybe it's better for the camera to move faster to give the scene more energy. The second example is if it's a build or a world showcase, you're not going to want to do fast-moving shots because it doesn't make a lot of sense for the scene. It makes more sense to use slow, steady shots for the viewer to take in the scene. Additionally, spinning the camera like this, oh my gosh, really does not serve any sort of cinematic purpose. It really just throws people off balance. As much as it may seem appealing and fun to include a shot that has a full 360, it's pretty disorienting to the viewer, and it will probably cause them to lose interest. I'd suggest to try to accomplish the same perspective with a shot that doesn't go upside down. A little bit of spin left or right is okay. As you can see here, this one has a tiny bit of it, but anything over about 30 degrees gets to be a little bit much for the viewer. The idea to keep in mind with camera movement is that we want the viewer to understand what's happening. So if your frame is going like this all the time, people are gonna be a little confused. You'll likely pretty quickly lose people as you're trying to do this, and yeah, if you can't make sense of where you are, then you're gonna lose interest. A couple more quick tips to keep in mind while you're shooting. Get more shots than you need. You are going to need them. Typically, you'll want to overshoot your scene rather than go to editing and not have enough. So for every time that you say to yourself, that seems like enough material, go ahead and shoot one more scene. I know, it's a little counterintuitive, but you're going to want more shots when you're editing. If you get to the editing bay and realize, wow, I did not have enough footage for this, it's a little bit more of a pain to go back and shoot more. The other tip, and the thing that I use a lot, is if you go into your settings and zoom your FOV in all the way, things look a lot more filmic. This essentially emulates the look of a longer lens, and that actually is really good because it emulates the look of something that isn't the human eye. It gives you an alternate perspective, and as you can see here, this looks a lot cooler this way rather than something like this. And of course, there's a place for this. Ultra-wide shots like this are cool in some cases, but in this circumstance, the zoom in is really nice. So I've got my scene all set up here, and I'm gonna go ahead and render it out. As you can see here, I am rendering in 4K, and 30 megabits per second is usually pretty good. That's what I kind of go for. And make sure you rename your file. Depending on a few factors like the resolution that you're rendering at, the bit rate, your computer's hardware, and a couple other things, this can take longer or shorter. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this be. So I'll be right back. See you guys later. All right, so you've got all your footage here in a folder, and you don't know what to do next. Well, it's time for editing. The truth of the matter is I have no interest in telling you how to edit. I actually think that you guys should figure out your own editing style yourself, but I will give you a few tips and tricks to use as you try to figure it out. First of all, the best way to make something look appealing is to cut the shots on the beat of the music that you chose. It's typically best to find music really early in the process so you know what it'll sound like as you cut, so that you can cut to the beat. Additionally, don't use weird fancy transitions unless you really need to. A simple cut in the video accomplishes the same thing that a blink does in real life. Humans can understand the transition from one place to another over a cut as if it was just them blinking to look in a new direction. The biggest tip I can give you with editing is this: if you're not happy with how a cut feels, keep tweaking it until you can tweak it no further. Then, if you're still not happy and it's worth it to you, reshoot something if you have to. Otherwise, if it's not worth it or the shot feels fine to watch, you can call it good enough and move on. Editing takes time, but that time is worth it if you're making the video the best it can be. Sometimes the shot won't turn out the way you expected it to the first time, and that's totally okay and super normal. It happens to me all the time. If you don't like the way something looks, you don't have to just accept it and use it. You can actually shoot another shot to make it feel better. Crazy. 20 extra minutes in the editing phase is nothing when the final video is exactly the way you want it to be. So I just logged back into this world with the ruined portal on it to like finish out this video, and I found this, the Michael Bay button? Well, before my curiosity gets the better of me, be sure to like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. I'll see you next time, whenever that is. All right, what does this do?